Hello and welcome to another session of Coleman University's Professional Development Training Series on Instructor Fundamentals. In this session, we will discuss the concepts behind classroom motivation and conceptualize teaching as a method of selling ideas. In today's session, we'll look at three motivational theories, one dealing with your own assumptions regarding humanity and its effect on the classroom, the next focusing on environmental factors that will affect the student's educational experience. And finally, we will examine a classic classroom-based model of student motivation, Keller's ARCS model. From there, we will consider how some of the tools used in modern marketing link to strategies suggested by Keller's model, finishing up with an examination of the three-part lesson and how to build motivation into your lesson plan. Motivation in the classroom begins with an examination of your assumptions about humanity. McGregor's theory is that people carry one of two assumptions about human behavior. There are those who believe that people dislike to work and will avoid it if possible, referred to as a Theory X belief. Theory Y people, on the other hand, believe that humans can take to work as naturally as play. These two differing viewpoints are expressed in the classroom by the way the teacher sets up and controls the class. A Theory X teacher would be far more controlling, use more negative reinforcements, and provide far more detailed guidance for the student than would a Theory Y teacher. A Theory Y teacher, assuming much more commitment on the part of the students, is likely to have fewer controls, require more student participation in decision-making, and take a more flexible approach to achieving course outcomes. It's important that you examine your own beliefs to see if you might be potentially decreasing classroom motivation based on your own hidden assumptions of student behavior. In the classroom itself, be it virtual or physical, there are a number of factors at play that can increase or decrease student motivation. Herzberg's well-researched theory of motivation takes an unusual twist away from typical motivational theories. Herzberg realized that there was not one but two different sets of factors working in the motivational environment, in this case the classroom. He realized that one set of factors, which he called hygiene factors, do not in fact lead to motivation. However, if they are unfulfilled, then motivation cannot occur. In a sense, the hygiene factors are the foundation upon which motivation can be built. If the hygiene factors are met, then the other set of factors, the motivators, can be used to increase motivation. Here we see some of the classroom factors, as described by Davies, that can be used in this model. Most of the hygiene factors have to do with the environment of the classroom, policies and how the classroom is run, how students get along with each other and with a teacher, how a teacher maintains control of the classroom, and how safe the students feel along with their perceived status. If students are uncomfortable in a classroom, if they're treated unfairly, if the policies are over-restrictive, motivational techniques will not be effective. However, if these factors are amenable, then using techniques such as increased student responsibility, allowing for personal growth, recognizing student accomplishments and work, and increasing the student satisfaction with their learning will all be quite motivating. In this brief synopsis of Keller's original concept, we see that there are four components that must be addressed in order for students to be motivated. Their curiosity must be aroused, the material must be seen to be relevant, students must feel they can accomplish the tasks, and the learning must be meaningful in terms of the student's personal goals and objectives. Here is Keller's own view of the relationship of his ARCS model to other motivational theories and concepts. We don't have the time to explore all the ramifications of this model, so we'll be focusing on some of the key points that will be immediately helpful to us as a faculty. But if you're interested, your time will be well repaid by studying the model in greater depth. Four components, attention, relevance, confidence, and satisfaction, form the basis of the model. About 20 years after the model was first presented, another possible component, volition, the student's self-determination to persevere, is being considered for inclusion in the model, or at least used as an adjunct to it. Volition is all about increasing student persistence at a task, and it's linked with scaffolding content and providing learner support. Today we'll focus on the main four. Attention is the prerequisite for learning. The concern is to not only get, but maintain attention throughout the entire training period. The desire is to teach in that area between student boredom and overstimulation. Relevance, which can be considered from the perspective of the endpoint of education, what the student receives from the effort of learning, or, as Keller does, the process of education rather than the content itself. So we need to match up class activities and teaching style with the individual needs of the students. Students with high affiliation needs would find teamwork to be relevant and stimulating, while those with high achievement needs would be better motivated with moderately difficult individual goals. The third component, confidence, has a lot to do with student persistence and accomplishments. This expectancy for success is influenced by the student's self-confidence, fear of failure, and the student's personal history. The final component, satisfaction, makes students feel good about their competency and ties in with reinforcement theory. The focus is on rewards and reinforcement of learning behaviors. However, this type of control can backfire and reduce student motivation if it is seen as reducing the student's self-control. While hours could be spent discussing this model, a quicker means of finding useful methods and techniques may lie in linking the ARCS model to many of the modern marketers' methods that everyone, students and faculty alike, are exposed to every day. As with education, marketing focuses on meeting people's needs, be it the need for a new car or having to learn how to fix the old one. Old marketing joke. What radio station does everyone tune into 24 hours a day? Answer? WII-FM. What's in it for me? The marketer's assumption is that people are basically moved by their own needs and desires. Even the desire to help others can be considered selfish, as it reflects well on the philanthropist who gains social standing through helping others. If we as instructors can focus on what our students can potentially get from expending the effort to learn, we can take the first steps in motivating them to accomplish the task. The key is to focus not on our needs as instructors, like accomplishing the outcome, but on their needs. We ask, what does my student receive from accomplishing that outcome? As instructors, we spend an inordinate amount of time preparing ourselves to present the content of our lessons. We know our topics backwards and forwards, but we don't take the extra steps the great salespeople often do. Like teachers, salespeople spend a lot of time learning their product. However, their experience with people has taught them to take two additional steps. First, to consider what objections the client has to the sale, the reason they don't wish to purchase, and second, how to respond to those objections. By thinking through these two additional steps long before they're in front of a client, salespeople become much more effective. In much the same way, teachers need to understand where learning the topic is difficult, the objection, and then try to find a way to overcome or diminish that difficulty. To take these steps, teachers must first go into what I call, quote, student mode, end quote. They have to forget they already know the topic and instead approach it with fresh eyes, as if they were a student first trying to learn it. What doesn't initially make sense? Which terms are confusing? By identifying these objections, we can modify our presentation or the layout of the lesson to minimize them before the students even know they exist. If we can't avoid the objection, we must at least create and practice our response to that objection. How we deal with a student's frustration in class has a lot to do with how motivated the class is and their long-term chances for success. Let's look again at the ARCS model, adding in Keller's suggested motivational strategies, and tie that to effective marketing techniques that you've all experienced in your life. To catch a student's attention, Keller suggests that we apply incongruity or humor. Think about the last marketing message that you can recall. How did it get your attention? Did it shock or amuse you? Did the colors or sounds catch your eye? Did a free trial cause you to pause and consider? You can use the same methods to gain and keep student attention. Humor, if it's natural to you, is always an enjoyable way to get attention, but one good joke won't maintain student attention for 4 hours. Varying your voice, stance, medium of instruction may be very helpful, as can involving the students or creating unusual analogies. See the handout for more examples of educational strategies. Providing relevance is the key to both effective marketing and motivational teaching. Think of this as asking, why should I listen to you? What does the client or the student get from the time spent with you? Not only should the product topic be meaningful to the student, the method of instruction can also be motivational, if it's enjoyable or meaningful to the student. As instructors, we can bring in our own experiences. We can talk about the usefulness of the topic for the students in the future or tie it into future or past lessons. This works in much the same way as an upsell. A marketer who already has you convinced to buy the product now pushes you toward a more expensive version of the product. You learned X last week, which will help you learn this week's topic more easily. A marketer focuses on the long-term benefits or minimizes the costs by breaking them into discrete segments. Few of us would willingly sit down for 40 straight hours of instruction, but 4 hours a week for 10 weeks doesn't sound too bad. A marketer is always focused on the client's needs. If we know what our students need and desire, we can show them how learning this topic will bring them closer to their desires and meet their needs. Instilling confidence is equally difficult for marketers and instructors. Think about the fluttery feeling you have when purchasing a new phone or computer. You're excited about the better features that the new item offers, but you're not sure how long it will take you to learn how to use them so that you can take advantage of those features. In marketing parlance, you're finding it difficult to convert features into benefits. Luckily, this is the responsibility of the marketer-instructor. Think about how companies have made your learning easier. Just-in-time tutorials available digitally, FAQ sections, interactive websites, demonstrations, videos, real-time help, social networks to share information about the products, and neat tricks that can be done with the products, positive reinforcement of the intelligence of purchasing the upgrades. There's a reason that Apple includes an Apple sticker in their products. All of these tools are directly reflected in education. We have YouTube videos on how to do things. We can create FAQs. We have companion websites that you can make interactive. They can include demonstrations and video links. As teachers, we are the real-time help, and our classrooms are social networks. We can reinforce our students' learning and increase their confidence by how we deal with them in their successes and in their difficulties. We are the ones who whisper, "We know you can, in their ears. Increasing satisfaction, at least regarding the current purchase, is an art form to marketers. When you buy a home, anything you don't like colors or carpets, are referred to as, quote, cosmetic concerns, things you can easily fix later on. The focus should be on the big picture, the home you're buying at a great price in a grand neighborhood. The marketer focuses on the positive aspects and provides frequent positive reinforcement, downplaying the negative. Sure, the insurance on that brand new Ferrari is outrageous, but what will that matter, given the pride of ownership and the joyful experience you're going to have while driving it? Stores don't want you to shop around and be confused by the offers of others, just like instructors want students to focus on the topic at hand rather than tweeting in class. Stores use loyalty rewards, social programs, and contests to keep you focused solely on their offerings. Instructors can use similar techniques. Remember those gold stars on the wall at elementary school? That was a loyalty program. The current fad of digital badges, which will be available when we migrate to Moodle 2.5, act in much the same way, rewarding loyalty, giving social status, focusing attention, and giving pride of ownership in the information gained through study. We would like to quickly introduce a 3-step motivational technique that you can use when building your lesson plans. The 3 simple steps are instructor preparation, the flow of the lesson, and the creation of the lesson plan. Let's look at each step individually. In the instructor preparation step, you have to shift between the student mode we talked about earlier and your older, more experienced teacher mode. You have to determine what information must be covered in the lesson, not only the outcomes or objectives of the lesson itself, but the detailed material within each of the topics of the lesson. With your quote, new student, end quote, viewpoint, you have to examine the material for areas of potential confusion, those possible objections we discussed in marketing. And then, returning to instructor mode, considering how to simplify or clarify the topics. Is there a relationship between each topic that can be amplified and demonstrated to help the learning? Can you create mnemonics or diagrams that help students make sense of this data? Finally, you have to put on your marketer hat and consider motivation. WIIFM. Why should your students learn this material? And no, because I said so is not a valid motivation reason. You need to have these reasons clearly in mind so that you can sprinkle them into your lesson, using them to reinforce the learning and to motivate the students while they're being introduced to the topic. Realize that motivation is not something we just tack onto the end of a lesson like a dessert that finishes a meal. Motivation is the salt we sprinkle throughout the meal to enhance the flavor and desirability of each item on the menu. The second step, the lesson flow, is where you take what you learned in the first step and organize it conceptually. The purpose behind what is being learned, the motivation to learn it, is wrapped around each of the processes you created in the first step to make sense of the individual topics that form the main points of the lesson. You need to think and rethink through this process, editing to create even more clarity for the students. The time that you take to clarify your own thinking on the subject will be reflected in the ease with which your students learn the lesson. In my experience, quite often student confusion is more the result of lack of instructor preparation than it is from the difficulty of the subject matter itself. A well-prepared instructor is one who knows the topics in the lesson, understands the topical relationships, has determined the sticking points the students may have, already created answers that will overcome those objections, and who has clarified and simplified the lesson's concepts, will always have an easier time of it in class, and will have better results in terms of student learning. In the final step, you formalize your thoughts and document them in a lesson plan. You're looking at a classic oratory three-part structure: introduction, body, and conclusion. In the introduction, you will tell them what the lesson will teach and include in it your first motivational statements as to why the student should listen. In the body, you use the information from step 2 to flow the lesson in a logical manner, topic after topic, concept after concept, using mnemonics, diagrams, and your presentation skills, along with motivational statements to increase or enhance the learning. In the conclusion, you summarize one or two of the key points and refresh your main motivational statements. Wise instructors pre-plan their motivational statements and do not rely on remembering them on an ad hoc basis during the presentation. Keller's motivational strategies can be scattered throughout the lesson, but in general, attention tactics should come first, along with relevance, and satisfaction is likely to be the last in the conclusion. The choices are up to you. We have covered a lot of ground in a very short time today. You've been introduced to a rich model of student motivation that gives you immediate practical guidance for increasing interest in your topics. You have seen a three-step process for creating motivational lesson plans, and as a means of jump-starting thought on the motivational process, you have been shown how the marketer's motivational techniques that you've been exposed to on a daily basis can be used in your classrooms. Student motivation is quite a deep and rich vein for academics. We have barely scratched the surface, and we hope that the conversation will continue, both in faculty discussions and on the website. We have included as a handout the list of motivational strategies given by Keller in his 1987 article, as it's not available digitally. Please do take a look at the handout, and I encourage you to search our online library's collections for journal articles on Keller's works. The ARCS model has a rich research history. Or go to www.arcsmodel.com, Keller's own, albeit clunky, website on the model for further information. Remember that while motivation may encompass many areas, as the teacher, you are still the one in control of the situation and therefore responsible for the motivation of your students. We hope you've enjoyed the second lesson in our latest training series on Instructor Fundamentals. Next week, we will explore learning theories and concepts, trying to understand how people, particularly adults, learn. These theories will form the basis for the remaining lessons in the series. We look forward to seeing you again, and as always, have a wonderful day.